In the Pits is partnered with the Splat Zone Trinity 3-Man Paintball Series. The series, put on by Splat Zone Indoor Paintball, offers a fun and competitive opportunity for tournament play for players of all experience levels. Beginner, Division 5, and Open 3v3 X-Ball gives all players a chance to gather two friends and have some fun. Are you a beginner interested in playing, but worried your setup won't be competitive? Not to worry, Splat Zone will have several setups on hand for beginner division players if needed. The series is even investing in bringing my personal ref crew from outside the Houston area, guaranteeing that your experience that day will be run smoothly and fairly. Registration is live now for the season opener on Sunday, May 25th, so grab two friends and get signed up today. In the Pits is partnered with Bem Wraps. Behind every mask is a unique and creative player. Tap into it when you order your next custom headpiece. Their Build-A-Band lets you communicate with them one-on-one to make your order just the way you want, all the way down to the color of the stitch. Check out their Instagram at BemWraps for drops and build videos of them working on orders. They offer very competitive pricing, so reach out today to get started on your own one-of-a-kind headpiece. In the Pits is partnered with 71 Designs. Owned and operated by veteran Wade Martin, and partnered with fellow Texas brand Compete. 71 Designs can take your ideas for soft goods, merchandise, and casual wear and make them a reality. Message 71 Designs on Facebook or Instagram to get started today. In the Pits is partnered with QBR. Are you seeking to heal and recover from the toll that paintball puts on the mind and body? QBR has the solution for you. Head to QBRofficial.com and use code PITS10 for 10% off of your order, plus free shipping. QBR, they don't sell broccoli. In the Pits is partnered with XTPL Events. The Extreme Tournament Paintball League is a series put on by the Lukow family of paintball fit fame that gives the opportunity for players to learn and grow together as a team. 3-man, Challengers and Champions X-Ball, Draft Mech X-Ball, Super 7s, U3v3, even glow-in-the-dark Mech X. There's something for everyone at XTPL. Not to mention prize tosses, raffles, and the infamous paintball munching contest. Events happen throughout the year, and the prizes never disappoint. Sign up for an XTPL event today on PB Leagues. In the Pits is partnered with Hydra. Designed by players for players, you can outfit yourself in Hydra gear from head to toe. Have confidence that when you make a purchase from Hydra, you are purchasing a well-tested and well-thought-out product, trusted by several top teams, including World Cup Pro Champions Paintball Fit. I personally recommend their Hydra Black knee pads. Purchases over $100 receive free shipping. Head to hydra.fit to browse their selection and discover the Hydra mentality. In the Pits is partnered with Texas Pro player Jared Sherman. In a world where saving time means making money, Jared's local seed bank is making waves in Texas, carrying a large assortment of Texas-approved varieties for use in the Texas Hemp Program, seeds for novelty use, as well as premium genetics bred for solventless extraction. Jared Sherman has the ability to satisfy even the most sophisticated collectors. Head to his website and use code INTHEPITS for 10% off of your orders. In the Pits is partnered with Mariachi Águilas de Oro. Based in Austin and servicing the surrounding areas, these Golden Eagles will bring life to any event you are having, from birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, corporate events, or even a simple performance to enjoy. Guillermo Padilla, one of their trumpet players, is also a member of the Texas paintball scene. Visit them on Facebook and Instagram to check out some of their past performances, or give them a call to book them for your event today. In the Pits is partnered with the San Antonio 3v3 Paintball Series. The series provides local players with an affordable, fun opportunity to experience the excitement of tournament paintball and has already seen events sell out. I personally am the head referee for the series, and I can't wait to see you there. Visit SAT3v3.com for details on upcoming events, or head to PB Leagues to register your team today. In the Pits is partnered with Get Dat Shot. Get Dat Shot is a local Texas videographer with numerous events experience filming on the Major League Paintball Pro field. Needing coverage for an upcoming event? Message him at getdat_shot on Instagram and let him know In the Pits sent you. In the Pits is partnered with Paintball Kumite. Paintball Kumite is a program designed by Colt Roberts of professional team San Antonio X Factor to take paintball players of all ages, experience levels, and skill groups and mold them into champions. The program breaks the game down into small, easy-to-learn sessions designed to help you master the fundamentals so that you can elevate your game. Newcomers to the program get a free 1-hour introductory class when mentioning In the Pits. To sign up for a class, message at Paintball Kumite on Instagram. Before we start, y'all, I do want to say my condolences to Jerry Caro and those close to him. My condolences to the Los Angeles Ironmen, New York Extreme, LA Infamous, and all of the teams and teammates of his. If you are experiencing crisis and you need someone to reach out to, call or text the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988. That resource is always there. Check in on your friends, cherish your friends. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and check in on everybody. Make sure we're all together and that we all have someone that we can go to. And that being said, everybody, welcome to episode 146 of In the Pits Paintball Podcast. This podcast is focused on everything that has to do with the paintball scene here in Texas, from professional players and teams to new divisional programs, local tournament series, field owners, Texas-based brands, even photographers and videographers. Every week, we'll have a short and sweet episode with a new topic and new special guest. I'm Christian Dallas Smith. I'm a player for the Texas Titans, and this episode we're going in the pits with Will Weeams, player for Beefy Boys and the MVP of the USXBL Lone Wolf Open. Will, how are you doing this evening?
Man, another day, another dollar, baby. So I guess I'm doing good.
Yeah. Man, been doing all right. There's it's been certainly busy last couple of weeks for paintball, both with the USXBL this past weekend. We had NXL 2 weeks before that. We knew that the season was going to be front loaded, and we're definitely in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, it looks like paintball season, just especially if you're playing nationally and locally, it's almost a full-time job in itself. You know what I mean? There's a paintball event going on almost every weekend from the start of February, right, until World Cup in November. So, we're in the crazy part. This is the hottest part of the year. So it's about to get more insane, I would say.
Yeah, and that's coming from the man who knows, because he's at every single one of those paintball events across the country, it seems like. We'll definitely be talking about that. But first, brought to us by Paintball Kumite, let's start with the big win this past weekend. So you ended up taking the gold at the USXBL Lone Wolf Open in the Elite Division. How was the weekend for you?
That's a great question, man. I think this might have been the worst weekend of my life in paintball. I remember coming home crying. I just couldn't. Oh, hold on. This is the one we won. Sorry. No, baby, it was great. Dubs. You know what I'm talking about? We got the dubs. Yeah, it feels great. It was an amazing weekend. To be humble about it, right? Obviously, there's things that you could clean up, and there's things that we are going to clean up as the season goes forward. But the point of going to a paintball tournament is to win the thing, and we won it and blew it up. You know what I mean? So I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I bet, man. You've got Joel Hoffman here saying the villain, the bad guy here. We'll get to that a little bit too. But yeah, you go to a tournament and there's only so many people that can go home with the gold medal. I think so I was coaching the Dragoons in D4, and we were saying like, hey, to go home with a gold medal in D4 that this past weekend with how many teams were there, you had to be the top 2.7%. If you got a 97 on your homework, you got second place. That's how tight the race is at this USXBL event, and even more so at the very top division. Whenever you've got guys like Jed Isidro, Jeremy Zimmerman that you're going up against, and still getting it done.
Yeah, exactly. Paintball tournaments are tough. D4, D3 is tougher. I feel like D4 is a little bit tougher, not because of the playing style, just because of the numbers and the matchups. Because sometimes you can run into a team that just is a style that you're not prepared for. Sometimes people who make bad mistakes are sometimes harder to beat, right? Just depending on what type of team you are. There's a lot of random stuff. You can catch a ref on a bad day, with sand blown in his eyes and see stuff that's not going on. So there's a whole bunch of different factors that go on that make a paintball extremely tough. So, and then you compound that by the amount of rounds in D4 that you generally go through on a Sunday. Right, that's a lot of paintball. You're generally playing the same amount of matches as you did prelims, right? So you're going 4 rounds, or if you're playing a larger tournament, it could be 5 rounds, to go through. So that's a lot of paintball.
Definitely. Well, this weekend you guys got it done, and you were awarded the MVP of your team. So this one's brought to us by TexanHemp.com. Was there a specific moment during the tournament that earned you the award, or do you think it was more so your general level of play throughout the weekend?
So actually, great question. So let me start off. If I had to pick who was the MVP, I just want to clarify. I think it should have been Cam. So Cameron Peterson, I don't know if you know him. He refs like the NXL events. He's a longtime Beefy boy. He's been with the group a long time. He's our 3. He's our quarterback. If you really watch the film, that guy just glued the game together from beginning to end, right? So if I had to pick personally, right, I really think he was the MVP of the event. There were a bunch of players who stepped up, right? So I guess it's hard. But to kind of address your question directly, Luke Pachowski is the team owner of Beefy Boys, and the captain of the D2 line. I asked him, hey, why am I the MVP? He said it's because I called my shot. There's a story behind that. Then I asked Chavi, who was coaching us, I was like, hey, you should give it to Cam, because I was like, it was really Cam. He's like, no, because they had me playing that tall Aztec on the snake side. And he was like, hey, you slowed the snake down, which allowed everybody else to kind of put the game together and go do stuff. And he said that was, a super important role to us getting a victory. So that was kind of the reasoning behind there. I honestly don't think I had my best weekend of paintball, especially when I got back to watch it. I think I made more mistakes than I generally make. And I know I can play better paintball and I plan to in the next event. So, but that was the reason specific why I got the MVP.
Well, I think anybody who saw the layout, and let me see if I can't pull up a picture here, but anybody who played the layout this past weekend knows that spot that you were playing in to shut down the snake was a very difficult spot to play. You were, if the other team made the snake off the break, then you were in a very difficult spot, pretty much just living behind your gun. And it wasn't difficult for the other team's back player to fill to the corner, wrap on you, and shoot you blind. And so you had a lot of those factors, not to mention like the shots off the break up the middle were not the easiest to get around. So doing all of those things and still doing your job, shutting down the side where like your position is really the only guy that can do it. And if you lose that player, then your whole game plan is probably going to fall apart unless you go flip the field. So you getting the job done in that position, I understand. Like, hey, it feels like it was definitely the highest pressure position, I thought, on the field.
It was big pressure.
Yeah, and you needed the combination of someone who's really good off the break, someone who has great survivability, and someone who reads the field correctly and makes the correct secondary moves, either forward into that wing or potentially backfilling out to the corner, or even filling the snake if needed. Or even looking cross. Like you kind of had the flexibility to do it all, but it also required like a very high level of decision making in order to play that position correctly.
I appreciate it. Well, thanks, Christian. Now I'm not going to be able to wear hats. My head's so big.
Love it.
No, but for sure, it was definitely difficult. And on the USXBL field too, that was a brand new field, so the ground was soft. So I don't know how much you watch the paintball over there. It kept those 2 towers on both sides kept getting unstaked. So I almost had to when I got in there, I had to make sure my hip was attached. So if it started leaning one way, I just kind of leaned back with it. It was fun for sure, and definitely a difficult bunker to play. So.
Yeah, for sure. Here, let me see if I can't pull up the field layout right here, just for anybody who does not know. Let's see, share my screen. There we go. So generally you were playing this tower right here on the left, on the snake side.
Yeah, the tall tower. The visibility over there is super limited too. You have a small little window when you step on the outside of it, so you can see right in front of the juice box right before the snake entry there. And then it's weird if they're in the snake or you're playing the bunker correctly, you actually can't see anybody fill from what we traditionally call the money bunker right over to the Cobra. Just because of the way that slant wedge is, right? You know, unless somebody's running really tall, but if they're running low, it's hard to see in that cut. So a lot of, you know, guessing, if you don't shoot the snake off the break, right, you're doing a lot of praying and spraying. Like, let me just hit in between a bunch of bunkers, hope I get a bounce over there. Try to see where they're shooting for using your one, right? So if they see them on the edge or where paint's coming from, you can kind of read the direction of the paint and then just try to apply pressure from that end. So it was definitely tough, right? You've got the money bunker shooting on the edge. It's kind of hard to read who's shooting on the inside, right? So you're trying to, I don't know if you're one of those guys. I'm one of those guys, you can kind of like feel the bunker to tell the angle of where the paint's coming from, right? So it's like if I put my hand in the bunker and I feel it coming from a different angle, it's hard to explain. You just got to kind of be able to do it. Then you're like, all right, I know they're shooting from this direction. If it's flat in the front, I was like, all right, somebody's in the center and I don't even have to head check. But anyways, yeah, there was a lot going on over there. It was a busy bunker because everybody's trying to kill you so they can get their snake free.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, that position definitely not an easy one, but it doesn't surprise me that you ended up walking away with the MVP. And just knowing your story and having known you for a little while now, which I want to highlight here. So let's go ahead and back it up. But here we got some questions in the chat. So from Gritty, what cigar you got there?
Padron, baby. Winter Smoke Padron, baby.
And just for context, Will was messaging me. He said, yeah, I'm going to be set up in the garage specifically so that he can have the cigar on stream. I love it. All right. And then you got Isaac here, says he can't wait to ball with you again in Ohio. We'll talk here in a little bit about your future plans for the upcoming events.
For sure.
And then, of course, your boy Scott Lopez, last row, says Will has the best style of playing paintball.
Oh, that's the homie, man. Appreciate the love.
All right. So backing up a bit, this one's brought to us by XTPL Events. So for those listening that maybe don't know about you, how long have you been involved in the Texas paintball scene?
Good question. So depends on you count. I count it by season. So this is the start of my third season, right? If I go by like actual months on the calendar, I think I played my first event around July or August of 2022, right? Which would put me at like, I don't know, that would put my 3-year mark right next month or the month after, right, in 2 months. But I go by seasons like a traditional sport. So this is the beginning of my third season. So I'm still relatively new.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a huge surprise whenever we get to how many events that you've played. You got a very long PB leagues. Let's just say that. So what teams, and this one might take us a little bit, what teams have you played for over the years?
Every team I've played for, or what organizations have I been a part of? Those are
however you want to answer that question. If you want to take every single team out of every single event, good luck remembering them all.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember them all. If I start from the beginning, so I started my paintball journey with Shut Up, We're Trying, that organization out of Paintball Fit under Jerry Phillips, who Jerry's the homie. I was there for a while, then kind of decided to go do some stuff on my own. I did a lot of guesting. That was my D5 year. I did a lot of guesting, but I played D5 events, but I kind of jumped right up to D4. I'm trying to think where I used to practice with BDC a bit. I ended up playing with them at the end of that year. Jesus, you put me on the spot. Obviously, I did some with the leftovers, right? I played with Dark out of MVPS. I played with my homies, the Rat Kings out in MVPS. They used to be called Resurrection, then they rebranded to the Rat Kings. Those are the homies. I played with them back in my D5 year. I just did a D3 event with them at the beginning of the season. I've done mounds with those guys at World Cup. Chris and Matt and the whole gang, man, much love. Appreciate you guys. Right. Anytime they need, got an open spot on the roster, they hit me up or I hit them up and I'm able to kind of go out there and spin and have some fun. That's a great organization, by the way. Obviously last year I was with Academy. I mean, you got me digging in to really try to figure out who all I played with. I played with like Jalisco Jam. So Chavi's, group for, challengers, played with Welts, obviously, Dirty Stu, that's a homeboy. He's like one of my first mentors in paintball, so to speak. Man, I've kind of bounced around, dude. Anybody who's got a roster spot that they'll throw me on for the last 2 years, I whether they're good, bad, I don't really care. Right? The first 2 years was all about grinding for experience. So I just played with anybody who had a roster spot, anybody who wanted, to jump on an event, I was down to go.
Yeah, and that wasn't just here in Texas. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but like just keep that in mind. Like that when he says anybody that has a roster spot, he means anybody pretty much in the entire country. For not just Texas, like MVPS, WCPPL, MSXL, EXL, NXL, like the list goes on. This one's brought to us by QBRofficial.com. So like, what was it that got you into paintball to begin with?
Oh man. Shout out to JD, JD Lukow. So, for the longest, I used to play scenario paintball next door to Paintball Fit at Mad Dogs, which is the rec field. If you had they only had a 3,000 field. So if you had your own gear, you had like a 4,500 tank or whatever. We used to sneak through the back of Mad Dogs on the Paintball Fit and use their air to fill up our tanks and then go back. And JD was super cool, right? Sometimes they would have events and they would do, giveaways where they're tossing, different gear that they're giving away to players. And JD was always a cool dude. Every time I saw him, he was always talking. He always telling me, "Hey, come play my event. Come play one of my events. You'll like it." And then that was before I had back surgery back in 2021. And so then I was out of paintball for a year because I had to go through rehab and letting it heal. And during that time, I kind of always told myself, I was like, hey, whenever I get back, when I got cleared in June, I'm going to play one of the mech events because one of my homies who was on the scenario team had played one when I was out. I felt like I was left out. They did it without me. So anyways, I played the first mech event. It was horrible. Like, not the event was horrible. I mean, I just sucked. Like, I was bad. I was like, oh man, this is tougher than it looks. Obviously, I don't know how you thought. I was like, yo, I'm just going to come out here and shoot everybody. This is super easy. Like, we're going to win everything. I couldn't even make it to a bunker. I still remember that because it's funny. I was on Colt's team and I asked Colt, like at the end of the tournament, I was like, Colt, what can I do to be better? And he was like, I think, if you just stay alive, I think that's the best way you can help your team. And I remember going home, I was like, yeah, I fucking suck. Like, he just like, he was basically saying, be on the field. He was super nice about it or whatever. But anyways, fast forward, Chanel with the, so Chanel had like an offshoot team because her boyfriend plays for Shut Up. She had an offshoot team called the Babies. And one of my homies who I played rec with was like going to play with the Babies, right? He told me to hit her up and they were playing a Challengers event. So I ended up getting on that line. We played it. I think we went 1-3, still played bad, but for some reason, X-Ball just kind of hit that competitive switch. And like, it just started right there. Like, from the time I left, right, I packed my stuff up, got in my car and drove home. I was already like game planning, like how do I become the best? You know what I mean? So I was already trying to put together a plan. So
you got bit by the bug.
Yeah, exactly. And in the beginning, it was just like, hey, I'm just going to go out here and win it. It was like a prove it to yourself type of thing, right? And then as time went on, you start getting slowly better. Competition gets better. You play with, then it metamorphs into something else, right? And that's kind of the journey I'm on now.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's kind of first time into paintball For the most part, unless they're like coming straight in as part of like a program or like an established team that knows how to show them the ropes, then people tend to get humbled pretty brutally in their first event.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like it's not like people out there like they look at the the PB leagues whenever they create their account, they sign up for the first one, they're like, oh, I'm gonna get all the points that I can. The more points I get means I'm a better player, right? Like, no, no. Like, there's even D5 players right now that have like 2-3 years in the game, and if I feel like there's even though it's gotten a little bit more of a what I'll call like a gentler introduction as far as like the structure of tournaments, like with the D6 3-man and the beginner and all that, it's still like you're gonna get punched in the mouth a little bit on your first time, and there are once you realize like just the amount of time in the game, a lot of your opponents are going to have, like even in D4, like if you got guys like Jason Bonner that you're going up against, that guy's been in paintball for what, like 10-15 years at least. So like it requires a lot of time and a lot of discipline in order just to catch up in a lot of cases.
Yeah, there's something Mike Hinman, man, and shout out to Mike Hinman. That guy's like a mentor. He's like a brother. Man, he's taught me so much about paintball over the last, year and a half or so. But there's something that he told me, or, early on to meeting him, was it's really not about how long you play or what your rank is. It was like, it's when it clicks. He was like, you can pump a player full of all the knowledge, all the info it gets, but you never know when it just clicks. But when it clicks and it takes off, then you'll start to see that player just shoot out. And he was like, some players you can tell them, the right things to do and give them all the paintball knowledge in the world, and it'll never stick, right? They'll never just understand it. But it's all about a time on when it clicks. You can never tell when it's going to click in the individual player.
100%. And that's how like just learning works in general for a lot of people. It's not just like a steady incline. It's usually like you got a plateau and then you make a big jump and then you plateau and then you make a big jump, and that's how it's usually structured. So it's really cool to watch those newer players like get those aha moments.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one brought to us by Sasha's 3-man, the San Antonio 3v3 series, which if you're planning on playing the Open XBall division, you've got until the next couple of hours to get your team paid. Right now, there is one team paid for Open XBall. He said if we don't get at least, I think 2 or 3 more, the division's not going to make, and we're just going to shut it down. So if you're planning on playing Open XBall at the San Antonio 3v3 series, you've got about 4 hours to get your team paid. And he also took off the late fee. So no excuses there not to get signed up. So Will, what are some things that you've noticed that have changed within the Texas paintball scene specifically, either for better or for worse, since the time you got in about 3 years ago?
So let me see. I mean, obviously the faces change. I don't know how people who've been playing paintball for a long time do it. I'm a creature of habit, right? So whenever I first showed up to Fit last year, I go to field, I'm used to seeing specific people. It was very weird when I came back this year, and it was like 70% new people that I didn't even know, and all the people I used to know don't even play anymore or taking a break or whatever. But on a bigger landscape, right? Obviously, USXBL, it definitely morphed, right? From whenever I first started, my D5 year when I first started was the Bunker Fest year where it had its solo year. USXBL was kind of on a steep decline, and I think midway through that year is where Mike kind of bought that league. That's a big thing. I think the amount of money that's put into it and the drive, right? Bringing a D3 division back, it's good to see that growing. Me and you've talked this Cali versus, Texas Mecca stuff forever. Obviously I'd love to see, Texas get big enough or USXBL to get big enough to where we have a Premier League. Obviously national paintball is very expensive for you, right? You play D2, would it be a lot financially easier if you got to do your D2 year local playing Premier, right, and to iron out more kinks and then go jump up another year. That's the biggest thing. That's really kind of changed is the growth of the USXBL. I think some of the negative sides are things that probably aren't the best. I'd like to see people or teams, right, take a bigger investment in developing local talent, right, or developing younger talent or newer skilled players. I think that's kind of a deficiency that we have here in Texas. Everybody's so in a rush to, and this is from my point of view, right? Who am I, just things that it looks like, but a lot of people seem like they're in a rush to win an event, right? So what you see a lot of people do is stack rosters versus saying, hey, I'm fine with finishing 5th or 7th or 8th for a year while I cultivate and develop young talent, bring them up and maybe next year sweep the whole, division, right? With talent that's not just going to go away, because a lot of times the talent they bring in are rental players and they're taking playing time from, their underdeveloped players, and then those players leave and go to another team, and then you just end up with extra teams of people who are all losing, and then they just quit paintball because nobody knows how to win, right? So, I think if the highs, right, I think that we have a super solid division that players can kind of grow and, in a more financially feasible way, so to speak, right? And then, on the downside, I think we just need to do better at developing talent.
Yeah, for sure. To your first point, where you said that the faces change, I think you'll find as you get more and more into the game, you'll see the faces actually kind of stay the same. You see the guys that leave, they will come back. Nobody quits paintball; they just take a break.
Yeah.
It's the same faces, honestly, a lot of the time, that are like guys like for example, JD Lukow has been the same face for a long time. You've got all of the Lukow guys that have been investing so much. Mike Inman has been steward of the game for a decade now, at least. And yeah, I think you'll see that as you get more time into the game, faces will come, go, come again. But it's more it's more of the same faces than you think it is.
Gotcha.
But yeah, as far as like the development problem, I think there's still like at least in the lower divisions, whenever you get to like the D3, like the more serious and the more successful D3 teams and up, then you start to see the level of commitment across the roster matches a lot better than in that D4, D5 time. And I think that's the biggest struggle that you see in D4 is getting a whole group together that all has not the same goals, but the same level of commitment.
Right.
And like, hey, if your same level of commitment means you're playing once a month together, and then you'll go play a tournament after playing just once a month together, and that's how you're going to have a great time, perfect. There's a space for you in the game. But just like starting to figure out for those players in D5, D4, for like coming into the game, what are they wanting to do? Are they wanting to win, or are they wanting to get the most that they can while limiting their investment, right?
Right.
And it's a definite mindset change.
It's definitely an expensive sport.
Yeah, switching from the I guess let's call it social group to winning. It's definitely mindset change. Oh boy. Sorry, my puppy's freaking out right now. So up next is this this question is brought to us by the Splat Zone Trinity 3-man series. So you play, as we said before, a ton of events throughout the year. On your PB leagues, I went back and I counted them, and I had to get a calculator out. So we in 2024, I counted 19 events played. In 2023, I counted 23 events. And you're not just playing in Texas, like we said. You also have the MVPS, the MSXL, the NXL, the WCPPL, the EXL on your rap sheet. You've played 51 events since you started 3 years ago. What is it that allows you to play so much paintball?
My beautiful wife, obviously, she is
Correct
very
answer. Correct.
yeah. It's funny, 2.5 years ago, right when I kind of caught that bug. Um, it's fast forward when I was with Shut Up, the first tournament that I played with them, like a D5 line that Jerry had put together. Right, obviously we had practiced for like a month and a half as a new line, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna win it. And we ended up going 0-4. We won 1 point, right, the whole tournament. And then like I'm pretty I consider myself pretty good at gauging like talent levels of people around me. Even though I was new to paintball, I could understand like the amount of work. So I remember, I went home and talked to my wife, and I was like, look, this is gonna need me to like catch the gap, right? Because you brought up, some individual, I forgot his name, but you said he's been playing D4 for 15 years or whatever.
Oh, Bonner.
Right, this guy. So anyways, when you look at that, like guys who have that amount of experience and they're playing one level up, right? Like I had to to me, it's like simple math, right? So if you take that same, 15 years of paintball, right? And you, let's say they average one Sunday a weekend, right? Like, how do I kind of chop down the amount of experience they have? So I kind of told my wife, I was like, I need to play paintball every day that I can. Right. So Paintball Fit had night ball, so I could play Wednesday, Friday night. I need to be there Saturday. I need to be there Friday. So 1 year for an average person for me now becomes 4 years because I'm playing 4 times the amount of paintball within a week. So I just started in my mind kind of breaking it down like a math problem. How do I start catching, the people? Because when I get to D3, now you're playing people who've been playing 12 years. You got teams who've been together for 5 or 6 years. So how am I going to overcome that to be successful? So I just kind of used the basic math formula and just kind of broke it down to my wife. This is how much financially it's going to cost for me to get into it. And then also I'm in sales for a living. So, I mean, obviously, I made a very lucrative deal for her. Yeah. So that way that and I've been consistently making deals that are lucrative for her throughout this whole process. But like I said, I'm blessed. For a married man with 3 kids. My wife, is a stay-at-home wife, right? And what she really asked for was like, hey, I support you in this. I support you in everything you do. All I ask for is make sure, the kids get the time that they need. Luckily, I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule, shift weekends, the weekdays, right? And do a lot of that stuff and divvy out time and go to practice Saturday, take kids to a movie, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, so a lot of time management and being organized about it. But the key is my wife, right? Like at the end of the day, I run everything by her. Every team I play with, after every event, we break down what happened to an event because it's her money also. Right. So like, if I'm with a team and she feels like it's a waste of time, she's like, you got to make a move, or we got to make a move, if everything is going good. So we run this like a business, behind the scenes, my career. It's like we talk about everything. We're open, honest about everything. But my wife is the secret.
Love it. Yeah. It's absolutely huge that your whole life is aligned and all in agreement with the kind of path that you're taking, because paintball, especially with the level of investment that you have, it takes a lot. And you're talking about the travel side of things. This is brought to us by BEMRAP. So like you regularly are at so many different fields, not just here in Texas. Like you're at Outlaw, you're at Paintball Fit. You travel to California, you're at ASG. I'm sure there's plenty of other fields that you're at practicing all the time. And you also
own homies. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're also playing in the local and regional series. So how is it when it comes time for the tournaments that you establish the connections with these teams that you're appearing with?
Oh man. So it's a lot of different stuff. So obviously when I first got in, I was just hitting people up like, hey, you need a body. I didn't know anybody, right? But I wanted to play tournaments. I think my first actually guesting spot came from someone I played a mega event with, had kind of filtered my name off to somebody else, and that person kind of DM'd me. That's kind of what sparked the idea. I was like, oh, if this guy just hit me up to play, I could probably just hit other people up, right? So I would just talk to people at the fields about events they were playing. Like you said, I would go to other fields. I would just randomly go to like an Outlaw, randomly go to an X Factor, just by myself, and just hop on with a random group, go to different fields, just networking, meeting people. You go out there and you play good, people hit you up on the side. Hey, I saw you, and then I just keep that connection. Then later on, I'll come back and be like, hey, you guys are playing this tournament. You need a body, so a lot of that in the beginning, just hitting people up, talking to people, free agent group for NXLs, right? I would ask people that I knew if they were playing. Nobody's playing. I jump on with Matt Ingles. Shout out to Matt. He just had a baby, super cool dude. But I just hit people up like, hey, you need a body. Hey, you need a body, right? Like, and that was the beginning of it. And then kind of some people started hitting me up after my name kind of got out there a little bit and people started to know me. And then I just kind of rocked out like that.
Yeah, I think you're probably the best example of someone who is marketing themselves to play more of these events, to do more traveling within the U.S. Obviously, I know there's guys on the pro side of things like Joe Barrett, Harrison Fry that market themselves to go play internationally as pros. But as far as traveling within the U.S., there is a lot of opportunity out there, and there's more teams out there that are willing to not only have you on, but assist with some of the costs as far as like paint, entry fees, even hotels, rental cars, and just putting yourself out there. Or like the first thing you got to do is make it known that you're available.
Right.
PB Leagues is a great resume that you can just real quick, hey, send a screenshot. Hey, this is my experience. These are my results. And I know like both you and I have been traveling to WC to compete over the last year and change.
Are you going to this one?
I am not, because I'm going to be Sasha's 3-man is that same Sunday, and I'm the head ref for that. So otherwise I would be. So yeah, just being able to market yourself out there. And again, Facebook is a great tool for this because there's so many different free agent pages for all of the different leagues and states, really. So if that's something that anybody out there that's listening is trying to do more traveling, like maybe you're a Texas player, want to go try your hand at WC, or you want to go to Florida, or like to the Tri-State X-Ball League up in the Northeast. The opportunities are there. You just got to put yourself out there, make the Facebook post.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's the biggest key. I think a lot of people are scared to put themselves out there. Egos, right? A lot of people ain't no shame in my game is what I say, right? Especially, I remember, what year was the Lone Star at that park in Round Rock?
Oh, that was 23, I want to say.
Yeah, so I
think it was our first year in D3, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I was at that Lone Star in Round Rock talking to, Michael Diaz?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking to Diaz, and he kind of broke down, like, when AC Dallas first got together, how they got good so fast was they just played every event anywhere they can get to, right, like as a unit. So, that was kind of the formula that I kind of repeated, right? Obviously, I didn't have 5 or 6 guys who were going to go to every event with me and play that much paintball, right? So I just kind of scaled it down to one person. If that team got so good by just, playing a bunch of paintball, building a bunch of chemistry and getting there, right? I took what I was able to do and tried to repeat that same process. So.
I mean, it's a proven method, not just in paintball, but across life, really. Just right. the consistent application of effort is going to get you really far. And we do have a question in here in the chat from Michael Gard. He says, what's the best way to study and get better at tournament play besides running points?
Great question. Everybody's mind's a little different. I grew up playing football, so I love film. I watch a lot, especially the first 2 years. I've kind of scaled it back a little bit. I watch a lot of film, right? If you've got a Major League Paintball account, Go Sports, whatever you want to call it. But there's a bunch of film that you can get for free on YouTube. Something someone taught me was if you take a match of like a really good team, like there's a match that I watch a lot of NXL Lone Star with the Dynasty and Paintball Fit the first time they played each other. Like if you take 2 teams that are really, really good and take the one match and like break it down, like watch it like 10 or 11 times in a row, every time you're watching it, just watch by position, right? So start with your Dorito guy or start with your snake guy and see what he's doing throughout the match. Then you go to the two, on the snake side behind whatever side, or two on the D side, whichever side you kind of started, and just kind of break down what they're doing, individually. So you've kind of got a baseline in your head, right? Then you watch the match again once you've kind of broke down, you've watched every position throughout the match. Now you start watching the flow of the communication and how people are interacting with each other, right? Because it's kind of hard in real time to catch. Obviously, you can't hear specifically what they're saying. Sometimes you're picking up on body language and cues, right? And you can tell they told somebody to shoot this way when the guy turns and both the guns turn at the same time. But a lot of that raw footage is also, by the way, shout out to Ben Challenger. Ben Challenger gave me this game, a while back, where he was like, watching raw footage, especially, I used to be the attacker on the D side and I was trying to get better. He was like, dude, look for raw footage that has like a lot of D side. There's a tons of raw footage on YouTube, and on the raw footage, you hear the comms a lot better, right? So it's a lot easier to break down the communication between the ones and the twos and the threes, especially if you find like dynasties and like the better paintball teams that are out there, because there's a different way that they communicate, right, than some of the other teams that communicate, like the top teams, right? There's like nonverbal cues that these guys have, right, which also kind of shows you about playing with people a long time, right, how you're able to pick up those nonverbal cues. But a lot of footage, man. I literally used to fall asleep from watching footage that was all I did. I literally don't even watch TV anymore. Like dead ass, don't watch TV anymore except for paintball. So I watched so much paintball since I started. That's all I do. Like even right before we jumped on here, I was rewatching our match against Elite, and then the finals match is next after we get off of this. But that's all I do is I eat, sleep, and drink paintball. There's also a good book. Don't want to say the guy's name because the whole paintball community hates him right now. But it's called Paintball IQ. It actually is a really good book because it's very, very fundamental. A lot of people sleep on fundamentals, but it does a really good job of the book does a really good job of explaining every individual player's job. Like, what's a 2 supposed to do? What's a 3 supposed to do? I think I've read that book like 5 times, right, over the last 2 years. And I keep reading it as a refresher, right? Especially as I've kind of shifted into multiple different positions. I go back and reread stuff and then notice as I've gotten better, or more a better in understanding, of paintball, that some of the stuff that he said completely, like, I glossed over and didn't know I glossed over. And then now it's just hitting it, making sense. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, like as far as the, like the film study, the film, has exploded over the last couple of years in terms of availability out there. Not just with the YouTube channels out there. Like, for me, the raw footage that really got me going was Solus on YouTube. He's got a lot of semi-pro and D2 raw footage that he posts out there. Some of it for free, some of it behind a paywall. But it was his footage for me that like really got me starting to tune in and look at the finer details. I know on the Major League Paintball Plus platform, they do the edits where it's just the field audio. They cut out the commentators so you can hear the pros talking to each other midpoint, and they'll even put the stuff in the pits so where you can hear like the mindset and the adjustments that they're making. So yeah, I think the footage is not to be understated by any means. So yeah, this next question's brought to us by Mariachi Águilas de Oro. So even with all of the events that you've played, all 51 of them, this is only your 2nd ever gold medal and only your 5th ever podium. So what do you think that says about what is required to win in this sport?
Everybody says the same thing, right? Winning a paintball tournament's hard, right? We started off kind of talking about that. Winning paintball tournaments are hard. What I would say to people is like, understand that it takes 5. And, a lot of, paintball tournaments I played, obviously I was kind of guesting with teams that I didn't practice with. But it really takes 5 different levels, right? You can kind of get away with everybody not being on the same page, right? But at the end of the day, like the level that I'm at now, and as you try to go higher, no matter how good you are, right? One great player can't beat 5 good players, right? It's just impossible. So it's going to take 5 people, and people have to be able to play as a team. So it's tough. It's just tough to win a paintball tournament. If you're dedicated, committed, don't let the losing make you quit, because a lot of people play 2-3 tournaments, they lose. I think it's really, I guess it depends on what you're playing for, right? If you're playing for fun and then it's just not fun losing, I get it. But if you're really committed to the sport, right, don't let the losing kind of knock you. Just unless you're losing and you're not learning, right? If you're just like dying 2 steps off the box, maybe you should play paintball tournaments for a while and just practice,
or at the very least drop down a division, because that's probably a sign that you're playing up before you're ready.
Yeah, that's another sign. But make sure you're learning. Part of the beauty of where we are, paintball, right? The XTPLs, WCPPL that you've played, the you mentioned MVPS, USXBL. Obviously, all of those leagues provide footage for every field, at this point that you play on, right? So whether you're playing D5, you're playing, D6 3-man, you have footage that you can go back and look. So, I'd be the first one to tell you there are 70% of the things that I saw in a paintball tournament, when I go back and watching film, like, nope, I was wrong. Like, I didn't see that at all, right? Because you kind of get blurred in the moment. Moments get mixed together. You're thinking about points, 3 points ago, and blurring them just because you're running on adrenaline, right? So anyways, like watching your own footage, the better teams out there tend to watch footage together, and critique each other. And I think that's really big. And, being able to be critiqued, right? If you want to be better, you've got to be open for people to be able to tell you, hey, I saw this on the footage. You could have been doing this. Or remember, we were in this play. Hey, here's that. But I think those are, the big keys specifically. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And to bring up like kind of a more numbers statistic side of things, like you've got 2 wins in 51 events. That's around 2.5% first place percentage.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, around 2.5%. We said at the USXBL and D4, you had to be in the top 2.7%. So that those numbers kind of check out, right? Like it's really that difficult. And at some of these team events, especially when you're getting into like the team counts of like 30, 40, maybe even 50, like let's just say 50 teams out there, an average of 8 players on a roster. You've got what, like that's 400 players, and only 8 of them are walking away with a gold. 392 of them are taking an L at some point.
Exactly.
So, it's really that difficult. And it just like, you've got to come at it with a mindset of, I am not just going to be good. I am not just going to be great. I am going to be the top 2%. And even then you still need some things to go your way at the event.
I agree. They're tough, man. They're tough. Paintball. I think it's part of what keeps us coming back is how I've been doing this for a short time, but like how you talked about people just take breaks. They don't really go away. I think that's what gets people coming back, right? Is they're tough, but if inside of you, if you're competitive and you like a challenge, right? If it's that extremely hard to where you've got to be within the top, 1.5%, to be a winner, in a division or in paintball, that's a hell of a challenge in itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's just the numbers. That's not to mention the elements that you got to deal with, like the humidity or the sideways rain, or the big puddles on the ground, or the 6 a.m. games or the 6 p.m. games. Like, there's a whole lot of other stuff you got to overcome too.
Yeah, dude, it's funny you brought that up. Literally like 2-3 hours. I don't know if you know Gray Passmore with shout out to the homie Gray, but look, we were just on Messenger talking about that earlier, right? He had been busy, got kind of circled around and chat about some stuff, and we were just talking about how hard it is, right, to win paintball tournaments considering the heat. Because you were out there Saturday, right? Yeah, so dude, it was a blazer, and it wasn't the hottest day in the world. It's just because
the humidity was something else.
Yeah, I was telling the coach in between points, I was like, dude, I'm having a hard time breathing. It feels like I'm not getting oxygen, right? Like I felt lightheaded the back half of our Saturday matches. I was literally lightheaded because I was sitting in a bunker just felt like I wasn't breathing. So I don't know. But yeah, so just kind of overcoming the elements and all this stuff. But it's just funny. We were just talking about that stuff.
Yeah, man. It's a lot you got to overcome. But that being said, for anybody listening out there, this man is 43 years old. What's your excuse?
Like, calm down, sir. Plus, I don't subscribe to age. Those are human-made numbers or whatever. I don't know. If you can point to me the first minute on the clock ever, then I'll believe in an age. But until you can point to the first minute ever, then it's all man-made.
Yeah, I love that mentality. All right, so we do got some questions here in the chat. So from Ben Rogers, he asked, "So what player do you try and mimic your play style, copy on the field?"
Shout out to Ben, though. Ben's the homie with Havoc, right? There's a couple different Ben Rogers. I'm trying to make sure I'm talking about the right Ben, right? But what's it called? I was gonna make a joke, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But dude, all of them. If in regards to like who do I study the most, Trent Mason, Scott Stewart, Rainey, obviously, and Tyler Harmon, they're all tall players. So I kind of the Oni Ben. Okay, got you. Shout out to the Oni Ben. But what's it called? But yeah, from like individual play style. I mean, I have my own style that I kind of incorporated a lot of other people's stuff into it. Like early, right? Because I was Dorito. I think I probably spent like 6 months just studying Chavi, like when I first started playing, just finding old footage of Chavi. Just I wanted to learn to play better, positioning, snapshots, kinds of stuff. But I've kind of got my own style, and then just incorporated different stuff that I've seen and different stuff that I've been taught, and just kind of breaking it down for what works for my body type.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you've got some. I mean, they're the best team in the world by a long shot right now, and they're definitely some great people to draw from. I think Trenton Mason, especially. I said it last week. I said it on Instagram whenever they what was it, that new fantasy paintball thing came out with Greeny from the Lucky 15s and Aftermath. I said, like, hey, Trenton Mason, he's basically like, when you look at the breakdown of his kill count, it's like 90. I want to say like 2/3 or 3/4 of his kills were off the break and zone contained.
Yeah.
Like that man is just doing his job, and he's ultra disciplined and doing it at a high level. That's a great inspiration to draw from right there.
And he does some of the most, and shout out Trent Mason, does some of the most unique stuff, right? Obviously, like, I don't know if you ever watched this guy when he runs off the break. I was talking to him about this probably like a month ago, dude. His barrel doesn't move. It almost looks like if you watch him when he's running, like he'll like the snake may die and he's leaving out from that money bunker to go in the snake. And it almost looks like he's floating. The way that he just kind of moves across the field. He kind of just glides across the field. It's insane. I don't know how he does it. And then he has this nasty shot that I've tried to drill it forever, and I can't even get close to accurate. He'll like run off the break and then like do like a front dive into like the snake and just let a shot off right before his barrel past the top of a bunker. He's gotten a bunch of King tournaments doing that, right? Because the snake players see him running, they'll pop up to get ready to take a shot at him. He's already diving down. He'll just let that shot off. It is nasty. But yeah, so Trent's one of the better players in the league. I mean, everybody's aware of it now. I think people were sleeping on him when they first came in. Yeah,
you can't hide now. The numbers, the secret's out, I think, on him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, Will, throughout your relatively short career, do you have a single favorite moment so far?
Dude, I got a bunch of good moments. They aren't all rapper. I mean, obviously, probably if we're talking about right now, I think it's gonna sound weird. Like the look on Luke's face when we won on Sunday was kind of like a priceless moment. I think he was more emotional than anybody on the team. Shout out to Luke Pachowski. Shout out to all my Beefy Boy homies. I probably haven't said shout out to them, but shout out to the whole camp. But the look on his face, like, right, I still have my mask on. The look, just like he was holding it in, trying not to release. Dude, it was epic. It's kind of burned in my skull. I kind of see that look just randomly whenever I'm waking up in the morning. But I think that was epic emotion. Just the amount of emotions that was in that pit. Whenever you get a win, I think we had some people who have won before. We had some people who had never won. And I just think the situation we were in just kind of made it epic, right? If you look at the beginning of the season, half our roster was D4. We had no drops. You know what I mean? Like, we came in this to get it out the mud, and we did. And I just think that belief that everybody had in each other, that we can get it done. I mean, that those moments, man, I can't wait for the next opportunity to get a chance at that moment. But that definitely is the biggest. It's the one that kind of sticks out the most, obviously, because it's the closest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like those moments like that, the ones that not necessarily a playing moment, unless it's just like the obvious, like, hey, I won my team the tournament with this move. Like, sometimes those stick out in your mind, but far more often it's the stuff in the pits, on the sidelines with your boys. Those are the memories that stick out.
100%. I mean, like, you see your teammates, crying, and it's okay for dudes to cry, right? So, but like, not crying from sadness, crying from, overjoy of emotion. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know how the Titans are. Things get heated in practices, right? So, like, everybody's, at each other's throat. You're trying to work stuff out. There's arguments. There's all that other stuff. When you're losing, sometimes in your mind, you never understand whether or not all that stuff is worth it. But when you win, it kind of puts in perspective the reason why, everybody is pushing each other so hard. So 100%. Yeah. So crazy time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So this question is brought to us by Hydra. So I know this year, as far as your event schedule and the team's approach, you're taking a different approach. You're sticking, it seems like, more like with one group of individuals rather than doing so much team hopping. And are you noticing this year any difference in your trajectory as a player as a result?
So yes and no. So one, I haven't did it different. I really did this last year. So I played with the Academy all of last year. They were out of Cali. I was in Cali at ASG all last year. And that was a plan. Like I told you, I came in, I had a plan. And the plan was to play as many events as possible. I behind the scenes, I have a really good team around me that I got like I said, I've got a group of people that I can bounce ideals off of, people who like really understand paintball from a very high level. And I can bounce ideals off and shout out to everybody. But I mean, the plan in the very beginning, right? Like my D5 year was like, hey, play as much paintball as possible because it really doesn't matter because of the points, right? In the very beginning, D5 points, D4 points, or whatever. From what I was always told on different people, is like real paintball starts at D3. That's what I was always told. And then obviously, if you rank up too fast, like start playing too many D4 events, you rank up to D3. You can still play D4 as a drop. Right. It's really when you rank up too fast past D3 and now you rank D2. It depends. Are you good enough to be a drop? All that. It's a whole different story. Right. So in the very beginning, it was played paint. It didn't matter about the points, didn't care about the points, just play as much paintball as possible. Last year, it takes a team, right? I was trying to find a team that had the same work ethic as me. And when I found Academy, all those dudes were down to put in work, and we had a fantastic coach around us. So that was where, the beginning's about individual skills and develop. Last year was about learning team paintball, how to do things from a team level to get prepared to go to D3. And it was the same thing, right? Academy ended up, splitting and breaking apart. And then the Beefy Boys were starting a new line. And I've known these guys back when they were Greed. I remember, back in my D5 year, I used to, go up to and watch them at Bunker Fest when it was Greed and Avarice. And I just kind of studying in the background. And I knew like collectively these guys had the same work ethic. Because that's what I'm always looking for, is to be around people with the same work ethic, or somebody who works harder, who's going to push me. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. So, so it's still the same game plan. I've cut down some of the events just because, obviously, right, if you want to be competitive, right, like how we just got to win, you've got to be able to practice with your unit. It's a little bit different in D4. You could probably do 2 weekends before a tournament and rock out a win. I think it takes a lot of consistency, especially for a new line. Me and you talked about this before the first USXBL, like just getting the communication took us probably 2 months. You know what I mean? And is it perfect? No, right?
I mean, that's something that even professional teams are still working to get better at.
Exactly. Just to get it consistent though, like to where everybody was talking, regardless of what 5 you had on the box. I mean, that was a 2.5 month process, right? So, I slowed it down, and a lot of teams I talked to is kind of similar to what you did with Dub C. It's like, hey, can I fly in? Like luckily this year it's 2 weekends before, so generally, most people will take a weekend off after an event, so I can fly out for Dub C and go do a practice with a squad and then come in and do it. So most of my guesting I'm doing are like D4 drops for like NXL. I played with the leftovers. So I'm looking at like, if I do other events outside, it'd be like a D4 drop. I don't want to do a lot of D3 stuff, and it would have to be the right situation if I try to play up. So that's just a whole different scenario.
Yeah. I mean, with the as far as like the D5 playing as many events as you can, I agree with that, just because of like, once you're at, it's so easy to rank out of D5, and once you're out of D5, you're not going to be ever back in D5.
Right.
So I agree with that. And then like as far as like your approach now with the Beefy Boys, it absolutely takes teamwork. You're not going to have one superstar go and win the event all by himself, like you might have in D5, or even possibly in D4 if you have a D2 drop, which is allowed. But in D3, that is not something that you can get away with and expect to take home a gold medal. You need a cohesive unit, and I appreciate that you're spending more time with the team practicing and seeing like the value now that you have that group that has the same level of commitment. That's how you're going to get better faster, more than just playing more events.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree 100%. And it takes a unit. While we're on that real quick, because I got to shout out my boy Turtle, because you talk about more than superstars, right? I mean, everybody on that line had big moments last weekend. Shout out to my boy Henry. Shout out to Tyler. Obviously, shout out to Cam. Shout out to Patty, Patrick. Smokey Joe didn't make this one, but shout out to him. Daniel's the homie. Daniel's injured right now. He was a big motivation for why we wanted to go out there and get that win. I hope I'm not drawing blank on anybody. Oh, shout out to AJ, the hair. You know what I'm saying? He's a hair god. You know what I mean? So shout out to my boy AJ. Shout out to everybody on that D3 squad. I mean, everybody had big moments in that tournament, right? So just kind of highlight to what you said. The guys who are on the field in those situations, in those moments, have to be able to step up, and you have to all collectively put in work so that you're able to kind of shine in those moments. So
yeah, absolutely. So kind of talking more about that work that you guys are putting in. This one's brought to us by 71 Designs. So I know you and I talked about kind of your plans during this past off season, looking for the 2025 year, and it hasn't taken all that long for this new Beefy Boys squad to gel together. So do you want to share at all about like what your practice routine with them looks like?
What happens in the lab stays in the lab, baby.
All right, fair enough. Just know that I mean, if anybody out there is looking for some inspiration, I mean, it's not hard to guess, the hard work, just like put in the hours and stay disciplined with it, and not just like the hours at the field. You've got to make the best use of your time. Like even if you're going at the field every weekend, if all you're doing is everybody's buying a case of paint and you're just playing points, okay, cool. That's going to last you what, like 4 or 5, maybe 7 or 8 points. And then you shot all your paint. So you've got to make the best use of your time, not just playing points, but like isolate those individual skills so that you can get more reps. Like a bag of paint is going to last you maybe a point, or that's 500 reps for snap shooting. How are you going to use your paint and your time effectively?
Yeah, I agree. To answer the question seriously, though, I mean, obviously, we run a lot of points. We don't always just run points. We do a lot of drills, all the team drills, right? So not like individual drills. Actually, I got yelled at for trying to get a whole team to do a bunch of individual drills one day. But what's it called? Yes, a note to self: don't make the Beefy Boys shoot at targets. But what's it called? We do a lot of team drills. Luke kind of runs that. Gabe kind of runs that. Right before the tournament, we had Chavi, but Gabe is kind of like the coach for the D3 guys, and the in-house coach, and it's really all the D2 guys, right? Thor and everybody else is kind of coaching the positions and etc. Obviously it's a big help because we have our D2 guys who already kind of made that hump or jumped over that hump, so having the big brother line there to kind of play against on the weekend definitely help, because not only are you playing against them, it's not somebody who's competing for a roster spot. They're going to give you honest feedback. Some of the classic stuff, a lot of people take take practice too serious. What I mean by that is they're trying to win practice instead of learn and get better at practice. So I just think everybody comes in with a mentality to learn, right? We play, if you get bounced, we're going to call it out, right? Like if someone bounces me, we're going to call it out, let somebody know their shot's there. It also lets you know if you got hit, you were doing something wrong. You either ran your route wrong, you're playing your bunker wrong. I think in some places that teams I've practiced with before, guys are wiping all kinds of hits off, right? Because they're more worried about how they look in practice versus getting better. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a lot of core fundamental stuff. I think a lot of the drills we do are, drills that every team does. It's just core fundamental stuff, and just kind of drilling that in, so it becomes second nature. And then obviously just, pushing each other, right? They don't take it easy on us, right? We've run matches and they've blown three bodies off the break, right? And they've come running down the line. And if we didn't blow it, those other two are about to get chopped up. And we've also kind of, so I think there's an inner competitive rivalry, right? There's like a big brother, little brother. Seriously, like when I see him line up on the other box and I see one of the D2 guys, I want to show him that, hey, I can play paintball too, right? But I'm not going to cheat to win, or any of that stuff. So that competitive rivalry is kind of within the camp, which is great from a culture standpoint. But again, it just kind of comes down to doing stuff together as a unit, and also being able to provide each other with, accurate feedback, you know what I mean? Between points after practice, and I think that's what it is. And on our line, right, I'm not going to act like we're a bunch of superstars. Obviously, we've won one event as a team. We're not paintball event fit, right? Like we didn't just win, 3 pro events back to back, at the highest level of paintball in this game. So obviously there's still work to do, and we just got to go in there and keep putting in that work. But I believe in the formula, because the formula obviously works, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if anybody out there, you just got to put in the work and have that group that's going to be having not the same goals, but the same level of commitment. So Will, looking ahead for your schedule, you signed up for the next WCPPL event next weekend. But besides that, what else is on the horizon for you?
I think I got my PTO approved, so I should be playing Cincinnati. I'm gonna play with the leftovers again, D4 with those guys. Like from a whole year standpoint, I mean, obviously the next 2 USXBLs, right? So I'll be there in San Antonio and then back at FIT in October, I believe it is. Cincinnati, we're in the talks of, because our goal as a line this year was USXBL, and then, we'll talk about next year, trying to see if we can, if everybody can commit to doing like Lone Star. I'd love to do a Lone Star and Cup, personally, with the D3 guys. But financially, right, we have to see how that is for everybody else. So I know for sure USXBL, I plan to play all the Dub Cs. I like playing Dub C. I mean, those are great events. You've been out there. I like the setup because, yeah, you came to the first one, dude. That SE setup's pretty sick. It's a good event, a lot of space out there. Everything's kind of spaced out, a lot of room to roam around. And then just kind of anything else by ear as it kind of pops up if it's worth it. I'm supposed to go play in South Africa in December. I kind of got an invite kind of up in the air. I ended up switching gigs about a month ago. So it's a little different. Before the last company I was at, I had unlimited PTO, right? It was a California-based company. They were out of Silicon Valley, et cetera. And then this company isn't the same. So it just depends on how PTO rolls and what I can talk myself into or out of. By the time the year comes around, I get a little equity. But yeah, I'm supposed to go play in South Africa sometime at the beginning of December. We'll see how that goes. But yeah.
All right, South Africa, that's a new one. Yeah, definitely keep us in the loop with as far as that experience. Definitely interested to hear more about it. All right, so Will, this one is one that I ask everybody that comes on the show. Brought to us by Carlos Get That Shot. Message him on Instagram at GetThat_shot if you're needing media coverage at the upcoming NXL Cincinnati event. So, Will, and shout out to you, Archie Barnes Jr. Thanks for stopping by. Will, is there anybody in Texas? It could be a player, a brand, a project, a community member that you believe deserves more recognition for what they're doing?
I'm gonna give a couple shout outs. One, the homie Benji, right? It was the first person to kind of reach out when he saw me putting in work and was like, hey, come drill. I spent a lot of time with that guy early morning, just pouring sweat on the turf, grinding out my skills. Anytime I want to get some work, he's always open the door. He's always open and allowed me to come out to the field and get some work in. Like up and comers, I think it's funny because he was the first one to say something. We jumped in. My boy Joe Hoffman, I think he slept on, man. One of the better Dorito players out there, plays for Awesome Assault. He's a D4 guy out there. That whole group is a tight, connected group. I played World Cup with him at D3. Won like a couple 1v1s. Got really great form, good IQ, smart paintball player. Don't think he gets talked about a lot, but dude's a baller. Shout out to the homie James with the Hydra Kids. He's a snake player in the Hydra Kids line. Man, that dude's a baller. Like he plays like he's angry. I like people play like they're angry. Just for reference, dude. He plays like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's just a little kid, right? And yeah, but dude's nasty. I see him out there all the time at Nightball. I still remember, I don't know if it was the first time he ever showed up, but I remember being at Nightball, like one of the first couple times he showed up, right? And he was like, he didn't want to leave like the back bunker like any new kid, right? Then I disappeared, go to Cali and come back, and I was like, this dude's piecing people up in the snake and ferocious with it. You know what I mean? And it's just good to see that growth in a young kid, and he's real nice. Nice with it. Obviously, shout out to the Beefy Boys as far as up and come. Everybody check out the Beefy Boys. Just kind of launched a Beefy Boys brand, right? So the first shirts just dropped last week. Something that's really good for the culture, the community. So everybody kind of check that out. Watch out for drop 2. I don't have the date on that specific, but watch out for that drop coming soon. And yeah, so I think that's about it. I could do 1,000 shout outs, but yeah.
I bet you could. All those people. I mean, you probably know at least 1,000 people in this sport.
Look, the paintball community's been good to me. I think I don't. There may be like 1 or 2 people that I just don't necessarily get along with, but I think generally most paintball people are, pretty nice and friendly. And I think I've kind of had a blessed path, right? I've got to spend time like the Rainies, the Marcellos, I got my whole D5 year. I basically played with like Paintball Fit every week, right? While they were grinding for semi-pro, out there just doing night balls, and just got to soak up game. And, it's kind of, I feel like I've kind of been blessed. I've just kind of been stumbling around trying to do my thing, and just happen to kind of stumble across people, and everybody's been super helpful. You know what I mean? And people provided me a lot of great information and great knowledge that kind of helped me grow. And just appreciate everybody. It's funny. I tried to coach. My schedule was just too packed this year, but I was like, kind of like big on giving back, right? Like a lot of people have kind of given me a lot of knowledge and taught me a lot of stuff. And and I've never, no one's asked me for like, hey, give me $500 to teach you this, give you 300. People just giving me game, right? So it's like, hey, as I started to get better, I wanted to coach a D5 team. Just unfortunately, I mean, you practice every Saturday, Sunday. I just don't have the time to spend with the team. So that's a longer term goal, right? Come back and kind of help develop kids and kind of give back some of the things that were given to me and kind of help grow the sport in my own sort of way. But
yeah, for sure. All right. I'm scrolling here in the chat, see if there's any last questions for you. We got one from Bobby Kramer. He says, you've played with a bunch of teams. Is there anything that stands out with Beefy that separates the organization from others?
It's the work ethic, man. Like I've been with a lot of teams, and I mean, you can ask the Beefy Boys, right? Like, dude, I can't you can't be a goal-oriented person and be around people who aren't, right? So you can't have a goal to do something specific and be around people who aren't, right? There's nothing wrong with them. I tell people all the time, you can play paintball for fun. That's cool. Just let me know up front, because I don't play paintball for fun, right? I play paintball because I want to win and I want to get better and be the best. And I think with the Beefy Boys, what stands out, it's the work ethic. Everywhere I've been, it's always been the same story, right? It's like, if guys don't want to come to practice, then Will stops coming around. You know what I mean? And guys are willing to put in the work, and that's what keeps me around. It's that the culture. I think everybody here's got thick skin. If you ask anybody, I'm like the greatest dude in the world when it comes to, attaining a goal. I'm an a-hole, right? I'm not going to take a back seat to anybody else. If this is what I think that I need to do to get to where I need to be, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not afraid to butt heads. And everybody in that group is the same way, right? So it's like I'm hanging around with a bunch of people the same as me. People get frustrated. They lose 2-3 points in a row and guys are doing dumb stuff. You can hear them yelling. I watched these dudes yell at each other for 2 years behind the scenes. That's how I knew it would be home, right? And that's one of the things that, me and Gabe talked about before I kind of even, came to the Beefy Boys, right? I just let them know. I was like, hey, I'm not going to be anybody but me. Are you sure you guys want me to come around? Because you're taking on a big load, brother. You know what I mean? That's like, it's a big personality coming. So I think all those dudes are the same, right? We're all collectively the same, just different styles, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think that just about does it as far as questions in the chat. Thank you all for joining us here this evening. So Will, do you have any final shout outs or just anything that you'd like to say before we sign off?
Shout out Tracy Hinman. I'm saying that's like a sister to me. Shout out to my boy Frankie out there in Cali. Shout out to my boy Major. Shout out to the Violence fam, the Wells fam. Dude, I will literally take an hour doing shout outs. I don't know why you let me do this. You know what I mean? I know way too many people. Shout out to my homie Perry, you know what I'm saying, with the Cold-Blooded Predators. That's a good homie of mine. Shout out to MJ, Mark Johnson. Talk about a real dude. That dude's always kept it a buck with me, kind of helped me out, open up his field to me when I needed a place to drill. Always, provided honest feedback, was willing to actually, at one point for event one, we were kind of stumbling around looking for a coach. He was willing to, even though it has a paintball field, he was supposed to work the Saturday of the first USXBL. He was like, hey, I'll find somebody to watch it to come help you guys coach. That's just a straight up gangster to me. You know what I mean? Like a straight good guy to me. So, I could do shout outs forever. There's a lot of people. If somebody had a name specifically, I apologize. It's too many names to think of in the moment. Christian, right, came through and helped me, right, 2 years ago. Cash Money Records, you know what I mean?
Sir. Looking at the medal right now.
Yeah, Richie Rich, my boy Richie Rich, you know what I mean? Shout out to the homie. But just shout out to everybody I've met in paintball. I've just kind of run into a bunch of super cool people, legit people. So it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to where the future goes.
For sure. All right. So I think that does it for our show. Will, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody online, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Will at Bad Guy Inc. on Instagram, all one word. What other guests would you like to see on the show? Be sure to leave a comment down below. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button. The show goes live Wednesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Central here on youtube.com/@Major League Paintball. and recordings are posted to YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify the next day. Quick shout out to my partner and sponsor tier subscribers on Patreon. We got Get That Shot, Paintball Kumite, Bem Raps, Hydra, XTPL Events, Mariachi Aguilas de Oro, San Antonio 3v3 Series, 71 Designs, TexanHemp.com, QBRofficial.com, and the Splat Zone Trinity 3-man. Lastly, thank you to Major League Paintball for hosting this show. Also, if you are at the Splat Zone Trinity 3-man, I'll see you all this weekend. The registration closes tomorrow. I think the entries are starting to fill up. So if you haven't gotten in there, get your team signed up and paid. So one last thing I'd like to say, I released a video on my personal channel last Tuesday, and I've gotten a ton of kind messages, both online and in person over that. So I appreciate the community for the response there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the In the Pits YouTube channel. It's not here on Major League Paintball. Go check it out. And yeah, we will see you guys next week for episode 147. Will, thank you so much.
Salute.